Okay. All right, guys. So, um, I don't know how far all of you guys got into list one, but uh, we'll go over the list one problems from first last six. Actually, is what's the last problem you guys did in list one? Serena, do you know did they do list one by any chance? Like which like some problems in list one?
We didn't do them together. We gave them all as homework. So you can
Oh,
start
okay.
them.
Okay. All right. All right, then yeah. I'll start from first last six, which is the first question. Um, so yeah, since you guys don't have access to the Coding Bad website right now, uh, we should open them up on VS Code, right? Uh,
Yes.
yeah, all right. So let's open up VS Code, which you guys should have downloaded previously. And yeah. So if everyone can open up VS Code, and I'll wait a few. Yeah, if everyone could open up VS Code and also open up the list one document that is inside the homework chat. Kindamba, you have access on CodingBat, but I'm pretty sure your teacher doesn't want you to use CodingBat, and they want you to do it on VS Code. So yeah. All right. So once you have VS Code open, we can start on the question. So the question says, given an array of ints, return true if 6 appears as either the first or last element in the array. The array will be linked 1 or more. Okay. So, uh, so we have to check if the first or last element in the array is, uh, wait, sorry. Yeah, if it's 6, and if it is, then we return true. So the examples say that in this array, it's 1, 2, and 6. The last element is 6, so we return true. And for this one, the first element is 6, so we return true. But in this one, the first one or the last one are both not 6, so we return false. So the way we would do this is they gave us an array nums, and so we can say if nums 0 equals 6, uh, we can wait is yeah we can return true, and elif nums wait how and then elif nums, and then you guys know lane of nums minus 1 equals 6. So basically what this will do is it will get the length of the nums array, and we find the last value by subtracting 1. And we do that because the index of the last one will be the length minus 1, because we count by 0. So 0, 1, 2. And so the length is 3, but the last one will be 2. So minus 1 equals 6. Then we return true. And then else return false. If we click go, that will work. And I will give you a few minutes to write this. And if you have any questions, then you can let me know. If you need me to explain why I did the nums -1, then you can let me know as well. And I can explain that again. Line 5. Okay. So yeah. So I will explain why I did this. So basically, uh, in the array, for example, let's look at this array 1, 2, 6, 2, 6. Uh, so the index of an array will start at 0, and it will go to 1 and 2 for this one. And so when we're finding this value 6 right here, we have to look at the index value 2. But so we can, but see, since the length of the array will be different in all the questions, we actually have to check length of the nums array. So yeah, so the length of the nums array, but the length will be, if you count it, it'll go 1, 2, and 3. So the length will only be 3 when the final value is 2, or the final index is 2. So to find this final index, we would have to do length -1. And so that is why we did length -1, because length is 3 minus 1 equals 2. So nums, oops, 2 will equal 6. Something else that also works is nums -1, which you guys should have went over yesterday. And so basically, yeah, nums -1 will get the last value inside the array. So that'll also work, nums -1. Yeah, so nums -1 also works here. And I will give everyone a few more minutes before I continue to the next question. Oh, okay. We can go to the next question. All right. So, next question is, sorry, I already had it solved before, but we will start over. The next question is same first last. So, the question reads, Given an array of ints, return true if the array is linked 1 or more, and the first element and the last element are equal. Okay, so there are two things we should check here. That the question tells us to check, which if the array is linked 1 or more, and if the first and last element are the same. Okay. And okay, so let's check the first thing. If the array is linked 1 or more. So we can check this by just doing if length nums is greater than or equal to 1. Oops. Then uh, we have to also check inside of this. And oh yeah, and yesterday you guys should have learned and, which is you can use it inside the if statement. And so you can do if length nums is greater or equal to 1 and uh, nums 0 equals nums minus 1 and return true. Oh, what? Wait. Oh, wait. And then else return false. Yeah, sorry about that. So, yeah. So, first, you would want to, so this if statement is basically checking if the length of the array is greater than or equal to 1, which is what it says here. And then we also check if the first value in nums and the last value in nums are the same. And that's when we return true. And if we don't do that, then we return false. I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. I'll zoom in a little as well. All right. So if you guys are good with that, we can go to the next question, which is make pi. So this question is extremely simple. It's basically the same. Return an int array length 3 containing the first 3 digits of pi, 3, 1, 4. So this one just wants us to, that's a notification. So this one just wants us to make an array and then return the array. So we can just do that. We can make an array. We can just call it nums. And we can put inside nums 3, 1, 4. Because that's what they tell us to do. The first 3 digits of pi, 3, 1, 4. And then after that, we can just return nums. And that one is correct. This one I'll just give you guys like a very short amount of time to work on because it's very simple. And yeah, I'll move on now. I think you guys probably have this question down. You guys are doing really good so far because these are pretty tricky questions. And so let's read the next question, comment n. So given two arrays of ints, a and b, return true if they have the same first element. Oh, okay. So an array is like a list, which is, yeah, an array and a list are the same thing. So given two lists of int A and B, return true if they have the same first element or they have the same last element. Both arrays will be linked one or more. So uh, yeah, so basically we can look at the examples. So common end 1, 2, 3 is one list, and then 7, 3 is the other one. And so we have to check a few things. So if they have the same first element, yeah, sorry. If they have the same first element or they have the same last element. So both arrays will be linked one or more. So we have to check if it has the same first element. So we check 1 and 7. They are not the same. But we also have to check if they have the same last element. 3 and 3. They are the same. So we return true. For the second example, 1 and 7 are not the same, but 3 and 2 are also not the same. So it'll be false. And for our last example, 1 and 1 are both the same. So that's why it's true. So yeah, we just have to check a few different things here. So we can just check. If A, yeah, so they gave us two lists, which are A and B. And so if A 0 equals B 0, return true. Elif A minus 1 equals B minus 1, it also return true. Else return false. And so yeah, this just checks if the first elements are the same, then we return true. And it also checks if the last numbers are the same, then we also print true. And if it's not, then we return false. And that should work all correct. And I'll give you guys a few minutes. If you have any questions, then let me know. All right, ready for next question. Okay, so sum 3. Oops. All right. Given an array of ints length 3, return the sum of all the elements. Okay, so if you look at the examples, by the way, from now on, when I say array, I mean list. It's just that coding bat says array for everything when it means list. And so, yeah, the 1, 2, 3. So it just wants the sum of all the elements. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. 5 plus 11 is 16. And then plus 2 is 18. And 7 plus 0 is 7. So we can just do this very simply. We can just make a variable called sum. And then we can just say sum equals nums 0 plus nums 1 plus nums 2. So return sum. And that is all correct. So yeah, because the list of ints will always be length 3, we just have to check the first 3 values and add them up. And this one's pretty easy, so I'll move on in like 10 to 20 seconds. And yeah, okay, so I'll move on to the next question. So rotate left 3. So the problem reads, given an array of ints length 3, return an array with the elements rotated left. So 1, 2, 3 yields 2, 3, 1. Okay, so yeah. So for this one, if you look at the examples, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. So basically, it looks like the leftmost number will move all the way to the right. So this will become 2, 3, 1. And the same with 5, 11, 9. 5, 11, 9. The leftmost will move all the way to the right. So it'll become 11, 9, 5. And so yeah, this might, it kind of looks kind of complicated, but in reality, it's very easy. So if you look at this, if you look at the first example, 1, 2, 3, when it becomes 2, 3, 1, it's just the values, or the index has been shifted one to the uh, one to the left. Yeah. So basically, what we can do is instead of like actually rotating it and all that stuff, we can just make a new list called like rotate, for example, and we can put in the values nums1, nums2, and nums0. And the reason I did that is because if you look here, the index 0, 1, 2 of 1, 2, and 3, 2, 3, 1 is actually just the index of 0 rotated to the right. So it will become 1, index 1, index 2, and index 0. And so what I did here was I just put in index 1, index 2, and index 0 into a new array, or into a new list. And then I'll do return rotate. And that is all correct. That one might have been more complicated. I'm not sure how difficult that was. So let me know if you have any questions. Uh, you have to put nums because yeah, you have to put nums because that is what they gave you uh inside this parenthesis here. That's like the list, the name of the list that they give you. All right. Yeah, I'll give you guys a few minutes on that. Continue. All right. Reverse 3. Given an array of ints length 3, return a new array with the elements in reverse order. So 1, 2, 3 becomes 3, 2, 1. Okay. So this one is pretty similar to the last question. So basically, they just want us to reverse the values inside the list. So 5, 11, 9 will become 9, 11, 5. 7, 0, 0 becomes 0, 0, 7. And so the way we would do this, uh, we can just make a list called reverse, and then we can put inside the new list, we can put in nums2, nums1, and nums0. And we can do this because the length will always be 3, which it says in the question. So the nums0, nums1, and nums2, if it's reversed, it just becomes nums2, nums1, and nums0. Reverse, and it's all correct. So yeah, this one was more simple, so I'll give you guys just a little more time, and then I'll move on. Seems like you guys are all done. So let's move on. All right. So the next question is max n3. Given an array of int length 3, figure out which is larger, the first or last element in the array, and set all the other elements to be that value. Return the changed array. Okay. So for this one, I will teach you guys a new uh uh yeah, I'll teach you guys something new. So basically, it says it wants us to find the which is larger, the first or last element in the array. And so if you look here at the examples, it'll look at 1, 2, and 3, which is the list. And if you compare the first one and the last one, then 3 is obviously bigger than 1. So the whole list becomes 3. And the same with 11 and 9. If you look at 11, 11, and or sorry, if you compare the two, 11 is bigger, so it becomes 11, 11, 11. And the same with the last one, 2 and 3, if you compare them, then 3 is bigger, so it becomes 3, 3, 3. Now, technically, we could write like if statements and be like if nums 0 is greater than nums 2, then blah, blah, blah. But there's a bit of an easier way to do it. If we write, like, for example, that we can just make like a random variable like value equals, and since we have to find the maximum between 1 and 3, we can type max nums 0 nums 2. And so what this does is max will get the maximum value between nums 0 and nums 2. So it'll basically get the bigger value. So if this one is 1 and this one is 3, then it will get 3. And then value will equal 3. Value will equal the maximum between the two values. And so we can just write nums equals value, because we just want to fill the entire list with the maximum value. Then return notes. And it is all correct. Let me know if you have any questions about that. All right. Okay, so it looks like you guys are all good. So I'll continue. Okay. So next, sum 2. Given an array of ints, return the sum of the first two elements in the array. If the array length is less than 2, get sum of the elements that exist. Return 0 if the array is length 0. Okay. So there are a few things I want us to look at. So we want to return the sum of the first two values or elements in the list. If the list length is less than 2, get sum of the elements that exist, returning 0 if the array is length 0. Okay. So yeah, if you look here, 1 plus 2 is 3, because those are the first two. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So we want to check. First thing we want to check is if the array actually has length 2. So we can actually check that because it says here, if the array is length 0, we return 0. So if length nums equals 0, return 0. Elif length nums equals 1, uh, return nums 0. And basically, I did that because If the length of the or of the list is only 1, then it'll only be the first value inside the list. Else, return nums 0 plus nums 1. And that'll just, if it's not these two, then that means that it will be able to add the first two. So it will just do num0 plus num1. So it goes all correct. All right. Okay. So yeah. I'll repeat these two. Okay, so the reason I did this is because if the length of nums is 0, so let's say, so if the length of nums is 0, so if there's nothing inside the list, then that means that we can't return anything, so we return 0. If the length of nums is 1, for example, if it's only 3 inside the list, then we return the first one, 3. If the length of nums is not either of those, then that means it's big. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's like that, then we only add the first two. And that's why we do that. Nice. All right. So, okay, so let me continue. Middle way. Given given two int arrays A and B, each length 3, return a new array length 2 containing their middle element. So we look at the examples 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they will both be length 3, so it'll just do 2 and 5 and return 2, 5. So we can just say list, or whoops, no, don't write list, like nums equals A1, B1, return num. Yep, and that works. So basically, the reason that works is because uh, with the since it's linked 3 each, the middle one will always be index 1, so 0, 1, 2. But we can just get the middle 2 and then just put them into a new list. Oh, next. Okay, given an array of ints, return a new array linked 2 containing the first and last elements from the original. The original array will be linked 1. All right, so this one is just as easy as the last one. So we can do nums, like nums equals, or let's do like a different one, like nums equals nums 0, nums minus 1. And we do that because, so basically we just want to find the last and the first and the last value of the list and put them into a new list. And so all we have to do is just make a new list that has 0 and nums minus 1. We can return it. And that works. All right, let's go next. Has 23. Given an int linked 2, return true if it has a 2 or a 3. Okay, so the way we can do this is, sorry, let me delete this. All right, so let's look at this. So has 23, so 2, 5. Return true. 4, 3. Oh yeah, 2, 5 returns true because it has a 2 in it. 4, 3 returns true because it has a 3 in it. 4, 5 returns false because there's no 2 or 3. So we can just write if since it will always only be 2 values because link 2, you can just check if nums 0 equals 2, or nums 1 equals 2, or nums 0 equals 3, or nums 1 equals 3, and return true. Wait, oh yeah, and then else, and return false, and all correct. And the reason this works is we just check if each one has 2, 2 or 3. Oh, and that's the last question in the list section. So since it is, I will take it or stop screen sharing, and the other teacher, let's see who it is. David can take over.
Yeah, so before that, everyone make sure that I put on the homework channel all the documents and make sure you download them onto your computer so that even if there's no Wi-Fi, you guys can still work on it. So make sure to download all the documents that I sent. That's under coding bad documents. And then David, you can start.
Okay. So let me. Okay, so I'll take over. So now we're going to be doing logic one. Oops. Logic one. So the first one is cigar party. I'll just delete that for now. So when squirrels get together for a party, they like to have cigars. A squirrel party is successful when the number of cigars is between 40 and 60 inclusive, unless it is the weekend, then there's no upper bound. So if it's in the weekend, then we just check if it's above 40 because there's no upper bound, so we don't consider the 60. So return true if the party is successful, uh, which means that it's within the bounds, or false otherwise. Okay, so so if it's the weekend, then it just has to be greater than 40 since there's no upper bound. So I wrote if is weekend. So if is weekend is true and cigars is greater than 40, greater than or equal to 40, then return true. Um, if it's not um, in the weekend, we have to respect the 40 and 60 bound. So I'll so if cigars is between 40 and 60 inclusive, so including the 40 and 60 itself, return true. And else return false. And that's what it is. So basically, if S weakened is true, then we only check if cigars is greater than or equal to 40 because there's no upper bound. If it is the weekend, but if it's not, then we consider the bounds 40 and 60 inclusive. And if it doesn't satisfy the requirements, then we turn false. So I'll stay here for a bit. So I'll just move on. Next. Okay, so you and your date are trying to get a table at a restaurant. So U is the status of your clothes in the range 0 to 10. So any integer from 0 to 10, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And date is the stylish of your date's clothes, which is also from 0 to 10. The result getting the table is encoded as an int value. So 0 is no, 1 is maybe, and 2 is yes. If either of you is very stylish, 8 or more, then the result is 2, which means yes. With the exception that if either you has style of 2 or less, then the result is no. Otherwise, the result is 1. So notice how it says with the exception. So so we have to check this first because if either of you are 2 or less, so let's say like you're 2 or less and your data is 8 or more, then we return 0 because it says with the exception. So we have to consider this first. So let's do it. It's less than or equal to. So if either of you are 2 or less, then return 0. Uh, so now we're going to consider this part. So if either of you are 8 or more, then return 2. So it's else if. And the question says, otherwise the result is 1. So else return 1. Yeah. Okay, I'll slow down a bit. So if you guys are done, you guys can type in chat. I'll continue. So next. I'll hit that. Okay, so the squirrels in Palo Alto spend most of the day playing. In particular, they play if the temperatures between 60 and 90 inclusive, so including the 60 and 90. Unless it is summer, then the upper limit is 100 instead of 90. So you're given the argument's temp band is summer. Um, so you return true if the squirrels can play, or and false if not. So um, so let's find out what the upper bound is. So if it is summer, then the upper bound is 100, but normally if it's not summer, then it's 90. So oops. Okay, so if it's summer, so if it is summer, if it's true, then I set the variable upper to 100. Um, and if it's not summer, then the upper bound is 90. Um, so we're given that the lower bound is 60, no matter what season it is. So um, so to check if the squares can play, it has to be between 60 and whatever the upper value is. So so if the temperature that's given is between 60 and upper, inclusive, so including the numbers, so notice the equal sign here, um, then you return true because it fulfills the requirements. And if it's not fulfilling the requirements, then return false. So you guys can do it on this code, and once you guys finish, you guys can type in chat. So you are driving a little too fast, and a police officer stops you. Write code to compute the result, encode it as an int value. So 0 means no ticket, 1 means small ticket, and 2 means big ticket. So if speed is 60 or less, the result is 0. If speed is between 61 and 80 inclusive, so including the 61 and 80, then the result is 1. Um, if it's more than 81 or more, if it's 81 or more, then the result is 2. Um, but if it's your birthday, then your speed can be 5 more than the actual limits. So so it gives you speed. Um, but if it's your birthday, your speed can be 5 higher. Um, so let's say you're speeding at like 78, actually no, 82, then it's over this requirement. So you get a big ticket. But since it's your birthday, your speed can be 5 more. So 82. If you speed 82, then um, since it's your birthday, you only get a small ticket. So we can do this by um, lowering the speed by 5. I'll explain this further. So if it's your birthday, then you can speed 5 more than all the requirements. but instead of changing like all the bounds, it's a lot more easier to just decrease the speed by 5. So normally you would increase like all the limits by 5, right? But instead of doing that, you can just subtract the speed by 5 and it would do the same thing. So so if you speed 60 or less, then the result is 0, which means no ticket. Um, if you speed between 61 and 80 inclusive, so notice the equal sign here, then the result is 1. And if it's not less than 60 or within 61 and 80, then the result is 2. So basically, if you speed more than 81. So notice this line over here. So if it's your birthday, then um, you can speed 5 higher in all cases. So instead of adding 5, if it's your birthday, what I did is I subtracted 5 from your speed so that it's the same as adding 5 to everything. And these are the conditions, returning the respective values. So let us know if you finish or have any questions. Okay. So sort of sum. Given two integers a and b, return their sum. But if this sum is within the range 10 to 19 inclusive, then you just return 20. So normally you just return the sum, so a plus b. But if it's within 10 to 19, so 10, 11, 12, etc. up to 19, then you just return 20. So let's compute the sum. So the sum is a plus b. That's how you get the sum. And next, let's check if the sum is within the range 10 to 19. So if the sum is between 10 and 19, inclusive, so including the equal sign, then return 20 as stated in the problem. Since it's forbidden, so you just return 20. Um, if it's not, then you just return the sum. Okay. So what I did here is I found the sum. I created a variable called sum, and I set it equal to a plus b. And then I checked if sum is within the given range, 10 to 19. And if it was, then I returned 20. But if it wasn't, then I just returned the sum as stated. As always, if you have any questions, you can ask. And if you finish, let me know. Okay. Um, so alarm clock, given a day of the week, encoded as 0 equals Sunday, 1 equals Monday, 2 equals Tuesday, and a boolean indicating if we're on vacation. So day uh, is going to be an integer. So 0 equals Sunday, this over here. And if we're on vacation, return the string of form is 7 o'clock, indicating when the alarm clock should ring. Uh, Weekdays, the alarm should be 7 o'clock, and on the weekend, it should be 10 o'clock. Unless we are on vacation, then on weekends, it should be 10 o'clock, and weekends, it should be off. So that's a lot of information here, so let's break it down. Okay, so we're given the day and we're given the day and a boolean if we're on vacation. So true or false for vacation. Um, so the conditions are different for weekdays and weekends, so we should separate them. So let's start off like this. So if it's on vacation, then we have our own checks, and if we're not on vacation, then there's also that. Um, okay, so if we are on vacation, then um, then return. Hold on, that's sorry. Okay, if we are on vacation, then on weekdays it should be 10 p.m. I mean 10 o'clock. So so uh, so weekdays are Monday to Friday, right? So excluding Sunday and Saturday. So from 1 to 5, since 1 is Monday, 5 is Friday. Um, so to check if it's a weekday, the day has to be between 1 and 5, which is Monday through Friday. So okay, so if it's a weekday, which is the same thing as being between 1 and 5 inclusive. So 1 is Monday and 5 is Friday. So if it's a weekday, then return 10 o'clock. So that's a string. And if it's a weekend, which means that it's not a weekday, so else, return the string off. So we're done for if we are on vacation. So let's check the thing for if we're not on vacation. So we can actually copy this. So if we're not on vacation, then return 7 o'clock. If it's on a weekday, so 7 o'clock for weekdays. So this code checks if it's a weekday. So let's return 7 if it's true. And if it's on the weekend, then it should return 10 o'clock. So like that. So this one's a bit more complicated. So we're checking if we're on vacation or not, and then we're checking if it's a weekday or not. Okay. So next we have love 6. The number 6 is a truly great number. So you're given two integer values, a and b. Um, return true if either one is 6. So if a equals 6 or b equals 6, then return true. Or if there's sum or difference is 6. So a plus b is 6, or the absolute value of a minus b is 6. So, okay, so let me get rid of that. So for the first part of the condition, if either one is 6, then return true. So let's start off with that. So if a equals 6 or b equals 6, then return true. And the second part of the condition is if there's sum or difference is 6, then return true. So if a plus b is 6, so let's start with that. Or their difference is 6. So so normally you would do a minus b, but you don't know which number is greater. So technically you can get a negative number. Um, so we can absolute value this using the given function. So over here it says the function absolute value, ABS, with an integer computes the absolute value of the number. So we can wrap this into a function, a minus b, since we don't know like which number is greater. So we can simply use the absolute value function to get the difference. Oops, I meant elif, and else return false. So if these conditions are not met, then return false. Oops. Oops. Two equals sense. So this is an example of when the absolute value is necessary because A is 1 and B is 7, right? In this test case. If you do A minus B, so 1 minus 7, you get -6, which is not 6. So we want to take the absolute value of that so that we get 6. Okay. So next we have in 1 to 10. So we're given a number n. So over here, so we want to return true if n is within the range 1 to 10. So 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10 inclusive. Unless outside mode is true, then we want to return true if the number is less than or equal to 1 or greater than or equal to 10. So if it's not within this range, basically. So the conditions are different depending on the outside mode. So if outside mode is true, then we want to return true only if the number is less than or equal to 1 or greater than or equal to 10. So we can do that. Okay, so this is fine because if this is true, then it returns true because this statement is true. But if it's false, it also returns false because this statement is false. And if outside mode is false, then else return true if n is within the range 1 to 10. So we can also do that. So if n is within the range 1 to 10, so so greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 10, then return the value of the statement. Should I move on? So next, the last one, I think. Given a non-negative number num, so positive or zero, return true if num is within two of a multiple of 10. So note that that's the modulus, which gives the remainder of dividing a by b. So 7 modulo 5 is 2, which means that when you divide 7 into 5, you get one remainder 2. So you get a remainder of 2. So it returns 2. It returns 2. Um, okay, so let's take the modulo first, I guess. So you're given an integer num in the parameter. Uh, so we're going to be using that. So let's store the result, the remainder of num divided by 10 to result. And the question is asking to return true if the results, so the remainder is within 2 of the a multiple of 10. So basically, if result is 1 to 8 or 9. So so that's the remainder stored here. Now we can try to make this condition here. So first, oh, why am I doing this? So first, let's check if the result is less than or equal to 2, which fulfills the condition that it's within 2 of a multiple of 12. So for example, near 10, 12, you get a remainder of 2, which is 2 within a multiple of 10. So 2 is the upper limit for that. And the second thing we have to check is if it's greater than 8. So 8, 9, or 10. I mean, not 10 because it returns 0. So 8 or 9. Then we also want to return true. So greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so yeah. So basically what we did here is we stored the remainder into result. The remainder of num divided by 10. So the remainder of that into result. And we're checking if the results or the remainder is within 2 within a multiple of 10. So no matter how big the number is, we can check if the number is within 2 of a multiple of 10 by looking at the last digit. So by taking the remainder of the division divided by 10, we can get the ones digit, the last digit basically. So using that, we can see if it's 2 within a multiple of 10. So 12 is within a multiple of 10 because it's 2 off of 10, which fulfills this condition. We can also see that 19 is also within 2 because it's 1 off 20. Yeah, so so that's why we're getting the remainder to check if it's 2 within a multiple of 10, which can be done with the last digit. And so I think we're done with logic one. Yeah. Yeah, so we just finished logic one. So I think Serena is taking over for string one. So you can
Yeah.
start screen sharing.
Wait. Okay, so we're going to do string one. So I'll just start from the beginning. Okay, so we learned strings a few days ago, so hopefully you guys will be able to remember when doing this. So the first problem we're given a string in the form of hello, Bob, exclamation point. So you can see here that we're given the name and we just insert it, and all of them have hello and an exclamation point. So what we can do is, and you may remember, you can actually add strings together and it'll just be like added at the end. So you can say hello. Oh, and make sure to add a space after. So there's a space between hello and the name. And then you can add name. And at the end of the name, you see that we want to also add an exclamation point. And yeah, so you can just return this directly and it should be able to work. So you guys can go ahead and do this. Okay. Yeah, I'll continue. So the next problem is we're given two strings, and this time we're given A and B, and we want to return putting them together in the order A, B, B, A. So if we look at hi and bye, so hi would be our A variable and bye would be our B variable, and we put it hi, bye, bye, hi. So A, B, B, A. So this one, since we're already given them as A and B, we can just return it by adding A and B and B and A. So it's the same form that they asked, A, B, B, A. So you can remember that the plus sign when using strings, it just adds it at the end. So it just concats them together. So if I run this, you can see that it runs. Okay, so I will move on to the next problem. Okay, so this problem, the web is built with HTML strings like there's a caret I, yay, which draws yay as italic text. In this example, the I tag makes you have like an one in the front and then one in the back, which has a slash, which surround the word yay. So given the tag and word strings, create the HTML string with tags around the word, like this. So we're given a tag, which is I, and we want to make sure we put carets around it. And at the end one, we need to put a slash as well. And then we put the word in between. So how we can do this is we return, we do first the caret for here, and then we add the tag. And then we want to add the end caret. And then we add the word in the middle. And then we do the same thing as the beginning here, except we also add a slash, which is for the end. And then we add tag and we close the caret. So if you run this, it should work as well. Okay, so I think since a lot of you guys have already done the strings, we'll go ahead and if you guys have any questions of the rest of the string problems, you can ask. But we'll go on to learning something new. We'll learn for loops and while loops. So Roy can start teaching this.
Hi guys, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, then today we'll be learning while loops and for loops. So first, Python has two loops, which are while loops and for loops. And with the while loop, you can execute or run a bunch of statements as long as some condition is true. So if you go to this example here, let's click on this. You guys can copy this in your VS Code. And the syntax to writing a while loop is going to be the keyword or the word while. And then you have your statement, and then colon. And that's how you want write a while loop. So in this example, you're given there's a variable called I, and it stores a value of 1. And while I is going to be less than 6, this will be printed out. I will be printed out. And then I will be added by 1. And so once this prints out, this will print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it doesn't keep on going to 6 because once it reaches 6 after I gets added from 5, 6 cannot be less than 6. So this while loop will stop running. Okay. And again, if you guys have any questions, just write in the chat. So the next part is the break statement. And with the break statement, the while loop can be stopped even if the while condition is true. So let's move on to the next example. And here, you'll see that this is the same piece of code that we had before, except we have a new condition, a new statement. If I is equal to 3, then break. So here, what this essentially does is, if the value of I is going to equal to 3 while this is running, right? Still want to print out up to 3, but it's going to stop once the value of I reaches 3. Okay. Do you guys have any questions so far? Oh, this example of, oh, okay, let me go back to the I plus equals 1. Yeah. Okay, so here, what I plus equals 1 is essentially doing is, it's actually just I is equal to I plus 1. I plus equals 1 is a shorthand, or like, yeah, a shorter way of writing I plus 1. And what I plus 1 does, it's going to add the value of 1 to the variable I.
Yeah, so you need to make sure in your while loop to add 1 after each time so that your I value will get bigger and then it will eventually stop, because otherwise if you don't add anything, then since in the beginning I is 1, it will continue to just keep going because I will always be less than 6. So that's why you need to add 1.
And do you guys have any other questions? Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so that was a break statement where you can stop the loop even if the condition that's running is true. That'll stop it. Okay, so the next one is what's called a continue statement. And the continue statement is where when you use it, it will stop the current iteration, meaning, yeah, so meaning it'll skip the condition that's currently in there and it'll move on to the next one. Okay. So let me show you an example here to be more specific, right? So here, again, this is the same code that we had before, except instead of, there's a continue instead of a break in it. And when you run this, it's going to, so first I is going to be added 1, right? And it's going to continue adding until I reaches 3. And once I is equal to 3, right, then that's going to skip. Once I is equal to 3, that's going to, you'll see that in the output, the number 3 is missing because continue will skip that condition, or skip printing I into it. So once again, continue, you can think of it as a skip. Okay. You guys have any questions or continue? Okay. No. And then the next one is the else statement. So the else statements run when the while condition is no longer true. So this is going to run right after this becomes false or stops running. So let's look at this example, right? So here, a while loop will continue running until I reaches 6. and it's going to print out values from 1 to 5. Then, once it stops running, this condition becomes false at I equals 6. It'll go to the else statement where it'll print I is no longer less than 6. And the else statement, it's kind of similar to the else statement that you see in the if-else conditions. Yeah. Oh, you don't see the left side of the screen? Okay.
Yeah, on the big screen, I see it in my laptop, but on the big screen.
Oh, okay. Let
Maybe
me
you
try going into the.
Can you do the example on the other editor, online editor, not the W3 school one?
W3 schools one? Okay.
No, if you go to try it yourself in W3 school, then we don't see left side. All sentences in the left side.
Oh, maximizing the browser? Sure, I can do that. Does this work better, or is it still the same?
Still the same.
Oh.
Maybe you can use you remember the editor that we were using before, the Python editor. I don't remember the name.
Oh, the Python editor. Yeah, the VS Code. Yeah, I can definitely do that.
No, the online one. The online one.
Oh, online.
I think
Yeah, I
online
can do that
Python,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I think it's this. Right, it's this one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, so which one do you want me to start again?
For the lecture, this one we see everything. But if you go to the editor, then we don't see.
Oh,
so you can
yeah.
copy the code and paste in the online one.
So do you want me to do the example for the continue statement or the else statement? Or do you want to start from the beginning,
can
like
just-
the example?
I think you can just continue with this.
Okay, I'll just continue. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just copy this. Then does this show? I think it's okay.
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay. Yeah. So once again, if you see in this example here, there's a value of I which starts from 1, and the while loop will run until I is no longer less than 6. And that will print the values I from 1 to 5 because of this incrementing here, because it's always going up by 1. And once it is now equal to 6, it will stop running, and then it'll go to the else statement where we'll print I is no longer than 6. And that's how the else statement works. Okay. So, do you guys have any overall questions for while loops? Because if not, we'll be moving on to for loops. Okay. I don't think. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, yeah, just write it in general. Okay, then we'll just move on to for loops for now. Now, for loop, it's kind of similar to while loop in that it runs when there's a condition, right? Okay, so a for loop is used when it's going through a sequence. Like, if you remember a list or a string, it has a set of values in them, and a for loop can be used for those kind of things. Okay? And yeah, we can execute a set of statements for each item in a list. And as for like tuple, dictionary, and a set, you might learn them later, but they're very similar to a list. So let's go over this example here. So here we have a list called fruits, and it contains the values apple, banana, and cherry. And you can use the for loop, right, to print each of these values. So let's try running it. And if you see here, there are several components in a for loop where x represents one of the values inside the loop, and it's going to say for x, right? So one of the values inside the loop in the list itself, which is fruits, then it'll print out that value. So once I run it, it'll print out apple. That's going to be the first value. And that's going to move on to the next value, which is banana. And after that, it'll be cherry. And that's how you use a for loop to print out each value in the list. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Now, like I said before, you can also loop through a string. So here in this example, if I see, yeah, instead of running through a list, let's run through a string. And what this will do, it'll run through each character or letter of the string, right? So it'll go through B, A, N, A, and A. And then it'll print out each of those letters here. So once I run it, it should say, yeah, it should print out B, A, N, A, and A. And that's how you loop through a string. Next is the break statement, and this break statement is very similar to the break statement for while loops, and has a similar function too, which is to stop the loop before it runs. It runs again. So here in this example, you have a list called fruits, and it contains apple, banana, cherry. And once you run a for loop through the list, you'll print the values, right? But here it says if that value is banana, it'll break. And once it breaks, right? Once you type in break and it reaches banana, the for loop will stop running and it will exit out of that for loop. So once we run this, it'll only print out apple and banana. Yeah, it'll print out up to banana and then stop running. So it'll never print out cherry. And another example here, let's try this example. This is an alternative version of it, right? Where instead of having the print before the if statement, instead of having the print before the if statement, here the if statement comes first before the print statement. And if we do this, I'm pretty sure it'll only run up to apple because the if statement comes first. Because if you see here, you'll see that this thing prints out everything prints it out before it reaches the if statement, while in this example, you have the if statement first and then the print statement. So once we run this, it should just say apple. Okay. Next one is the continue statement. And this is very similar to the while loop continue too. And here, with the continue statement, you can stop the current iteration and then continue with the next iteration. Okay, and here, if x is equal to banana, then this will continue. And once it continues, it will just ignore the print statement here, and it will not be printing out banana, but it'll still be printing out apple and cherry. Yeah, as you can see here, it prints out apple and cherry, but not banana. Next one is called Next one is called the range function, and the range function will basically return a sequence of numbers where by default, or like if there's no other things inside the parentheses, it'll start from 0 and then it'll go up by 1 until it ends at some kind of number. So in this case, when you run this, it'll print the value of 0 first, and then it'll go up until it reaches 6. So it'll print out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it seems like 6 is not included here. So it's going to print out numbers that's going to be less than 6. So 0 to 5. And then let's see. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah. So as you can see here, it's not going to be from values of 0 to 6, from values 0 to 5. But while that range, the range function can start from 0, you can also specify which starting value you want to, which value you want to start from by adding another number here. So here, this will start from 2, but it will not go up to 6. So let's try it out. Let's try some other numbers now. Let's try 7 to 10. And once you print these out, it'll print out values 7 to 9, but not 10. Yeah. And another thing the range function can do is while the default value is to add like each number by 1, you can also change the increment or that addition value by adding a third parameter or a value after this. And here, you copy this. It'll start from 2 and it'll go up to, no, it will not reach 30, but it'll go to a value less than 30. Instead of having a default increment like 1, you'll have an increment or addition value of 3. So if you print this out, start from 2, then add 3, you go to 5, 8, 11, all the way up to 29, but it will not reach 30. And that's the range function. Next, let's go to the else keyword. And the else keyword will run once that for loop is finished. So here, let's try this example. So this for loop will run and it'll print out values from 0 to 5. And once that for loop is finished, it'll go to the else statement here, and then it'll print out finally finished. So let's run this, and yeah, this is what happens. So the else statement for loops is also similar to the while loops. So you can see like various similarities between these two loops here. Okay. Oh yeah, but there's also another thing you have to know, which is an else statement will not run. This thing will not go after the for loop is finished if the loop is stopped by a break statement. So let's try adding a break here. And let's try running this. So here, let's see. Yeah. So after it prints 0, it'll break, right? But it will never go to the else statement here. And that's what break does. Okay, yeah. See. And now let's move on to nested loops. So what's a nested loop? A nested loop is basically a loop inside another loop. And here it says the inner loop will run or be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop. And what that means is for one run of the loop, this thing will run too. Okay, so let me show an example too, so that you guys know. So here we have these two lists here. One's called ADJ and the others is called fruits. And when we run this, you'll first go through each value from the ADJ loop, and then you move on to the values in the fruits loop. Or let me take that back. Actually, you start from the inner loop. So you're only going to take the first value of x, or the first value in the ADJ loop, and then you'll run through everything in the fruits loop first. Now it'll print out, and it should print out red apple, red banana, red cherry, and then once this is done running, it'll go on to the next value in the ADJ, and it'll go to big, but this will still print out big apple and then big banana and then big cherry. And once that is done running, it'll go to the next value in the ADJ loop, which is tasty, and then this loop will run again too, and it'll print out tasty apple, tasty banana, and then tasty cherry. Yeah, I think that was a bit confusing. So, what happened there? Oh, I forgot to have this. Yeah. So here, once again, you'll see that one of the values of ADJ is red, it's red, and it'll keep that X, right, in here. Then, but the Y will change because of the for loop that's running here. Let's go on to the next one, which is the pass statement. And here it says a for loops cannot be empty, but if there's a for loop with nothing in it, then you can use something called the pass statement so that it doesn't get an error. So while this seems kind of redundant, if you ever have a for loop that where there's no condition or nothing in them, you can just have a pass to just run it. Yeah, so I think this can be used when you're solving a problem and you're not really sure what condition to put it in. So pass is like a substitute for that condition. And that's going to be it for loops. Do you guys have any questions?
No question.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're pretty much done for today. So for today's homework, it'll just be to finish all the coding map problems. So yesterday we did like list 1, logic 1, string 1, warm up 1, but today you guys can do like list 2, logic 2, string 2, and warm up 2. So all the ones that we haven't done. And if you didn't finish any of the ones from yesterday, you guys can also finish those as well as for homework. And if there's any questions, you guys can ask in the homework channels, or if you're like confused on how to solve one of the problems, we can go over it in tomorrow's class as well. Yeah. But other than that, we're done for today. So good job, guys. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.